Hello, welcome to the Nameless Podcast. I'm your host, Chris Adams. I say nameless loosely because we really haven't named the podcast, but one of the things for me is I've been wanting to do this for a long, long time, and I wasn't going to let the name deter me from getting this taken care of. So I do know a couple of things. Number one, business is what we do, it's not who we are. There are kind of three things that we're going to be talking about on this podcast. Number one is going to be clarity, making sure we understand what our businesses do. Number two, culture. And then number three, the commitment that we need to be doing as business owners to create that environment. And I think culture is a bit cliche. And one of the things that I want to do is put together this podcast to really bring in customers, bring in vendors, talk to our employees about what our culture is that sets us apart in the marketplace. And when you get it, it becomes really, really powerful. So with that said, this episode is with our help desk lead, former help desk lead, Shez Lenars. I'm super excited to have him. The conversation was fantastic. And as I kind of talk about in the podcast, he was a risky hire for us. And we kind of go through the process of what his interview was like and how he has grown both as a person and as a technician in our environment, in our culture. And quite frankly, Shez has been a part of creating the culture. We talk about some of the books that we've read together as a team. We talk about Excellence Wins, the book by Horst Schultz, who was the co-founder of the Ritz-Carlton. We talk about the book Leadership and Self-Deception, written by the Arbinger Institute. We kind of go through both of those books and the things that he has learned, things that we've learned together as a team, what we've done to create the culture that we have, and examples of how that's worked in our organization. And then the third book we talk about is Extreme Ownership. The really cool thing about that book is I asked Shez to pick the book and to lead the organization in going through that. And we kind of work through the template of what we do we just don't read the book and then do a Q&A at the end. It's a little bit more involved in that. It's a little bit more intense, which creates a lot of authenticity and a lot of conversation. And I think it just really helps us grow together as a team to help provide a high level of customer service. And one of the things that you're going to hear from me over and over again, really at the end of the day for us business, it's about relationships. People will say in their organizations about relationships, but it really is probably more on the transaction side. So here he is. I hope you enjoy the interview, Shez Lenars. Thanks. Hello, Shez.
Hey, boss man.
Hey, tell us who you are, what you do, and how you do it.
I am Shez.
Shez.
The Shez. Currently, I am a red team member here at Smatitech. And I've been here just going on 5 years. It'll be 5 years this November.
How's the last 5 years been?
It's been awesome. It's been different. It's been a roller coaster, I think.
What was it like when we interviewed you 5 years ago?
So I like to claim that I have the most fun interview process. So I think I was working with Justin at Verizon for a month, and he had taken a job here, and I was looking to get out of the Verizon space. So he put me in contact with you. We met, and you actually took me on a visit with a client you were trying to win over on essentially a sales call. So I don't think there was a lot of
Extendobed.
Extendobed, yep. Extendobed being me.
Yeah, which is interesting. We're going to have Troy from Extendobed on the podcast.
Oh, he's going to be on?
Yeah, he just sold his company, so I think I asked him to come in and talk about what it was like to sell, because most small business owners, they don't have a concept of valuation or what that entire process goes. So, and Troy loves to hang out with us, so he's gonna kind of come on. So,
Troy's a good dude.
How long did we interview you?
So I was with you that day for about 3 hours, and we talked a lot on the drive there, the drive back. Then I think there was about a month, about 30 days between you asking me to come in one more time, can I have one final sit down, and then offered me the job.
What was your IT experience?
None.
Zero.
Zero.
Do you think that had anything to do with my apprehension about bringing you on?
Absolutely. I think I was a risky hire.
And why do you think we did hire you, though?
I think, I think
you get to brag about yourself a little bit here.
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty great. No, I think a big part of it was, that first interview process. It was just interacting with people, kind of talking. I didn't know much about IT. I didn't know much about small businesses. So I think just being able to navigate conversations with Doug, Troy, and then we did talk a lot about me as a person. So I think a big deal, you knew that I was looking to start a career. And I think I was pretty driven and pretty persistent in telling you, hey, I want to start growing and learning something. I don't want to continue working in sales and retail and not, honing in on my craft and developing skills. So I think it was just who I was as a person, and those interactions kind of with people I didn't know and with you kind of stood out.
Okay. So we're going to tie this back in. There's a lot of juicy stuff there that I want to talk about. Number one, how do you think that ties into what our vision statement is? What is our vision statement?
Technology is what we do, not who we are. I think it's everything.
Right.
I think it's the whole thing. We have a lot of technical guys here, but the biggest thing is who we are when dealing with technology.
Right.
I think it's the whole thing.
Yeah. So the thing for us is we didn't hire for your technical ability. We hired because of the person that you are, right? And I was right, obviously, because you kind of lasted 5 years. And so kind of take me through where you started and then kind of how we moved you through the company to where you are today, and whether or not you would, have thought you were sitting in the desk and with the responsibilities that you thought you had today. Because I think it's a powerful story.
Yeah, I think so. I don't think at the time I thought I'd be where I am right now.
Yeah,
I can definitely say that. So when you brought me on, Justin made it pretty clear to me and to you, hey, this guy's got no technical background. I wasn't a home lab type of guy either. So I think.
Did you even have a gaming computer yet?
I did not.
Oh boy,
I think
that's a whole nother. We got to stay on track here.
I think I was using a Chromebook, but so I kind of started, and the thought was that I was going to do a lot of our field stuff, a lot of our on-site work, and then as it got more advanced, I'd loop in Justin and kind of work. I'd be his smart hands, and he would be remote, kind of doing the work. So I think I did that for a year or two, and I got to the point I was doing a good job managing a lot of it on my own. And then as we started to grow, I think Justin wasn't able to take all of the calls and tickets we were obviously getting.
And then, so just for kind of context, how many calls were we taking a day?
So me and Justin differ on this. I think there was days it was 2 or 3. He claims 5 to 8. But they were, I would say 2 calls a day maybe.
Yeah. And so today we're taking...
Oh, it's 30 to 50 depending on the day, yeah.
Yeah, Monday is a little bit higher than Friday afternoon. Probably won't be taking too many tickets today. Friday before Labor Day.
That's right.
And then kind of what do we hover around in our total help desk queue?
We sit usually 60 to 100 open tickets.
Yeah.
Open for us is different for other places. We do a lot of like project work. I like to say we see stuff through too.
Yeah.
But I'd say, we receive anywhere from 30 to 50 tickets a day as well.
Yeah.
On top of the phone calls. So.
And so we had Justin. We did Justin's 5-year too. I haven't seen that yet, but so I don't want to talk about some of the same things. But how important is our ticketing system?
It's huge. It's our communication piece. That's how we. That's how we obviously are made aware of issues and projects. That's also how we reach out to people to check in on, previous deployments and whatnot. It's what funnels everything through Smatotech is the ticketing system.
How does the ticketing system hold us accountable?
I think the way we use it with the visibility. So there is different groups, obviously, because things go to different people, but everyone has visibility into that. So sometimes, we haven't mentioned that yet. I was the help desk lead for about a year and a half. Sometimes the guys were checking in on my tickets to see how I'd handle things, and sometimes they'd catch, hey, remember you have that appointment today at 8 a.m. And thanks for the reminders.
Yep.
Things like that. So it's never trying to get someone. I think it's just kind of always trying to make sure everyone's on top of their stuff. And a lot of the time it's to learn, it was me looking at Justin's, how does he communicate, with this client versus this one, or how does he get this point across when maybe someone's not understanding it? I think that trickled down to the guys under me. And then obviously the new employees we've brought in. It's that whole
Culture.
Yeah,
It is
exactly.
culture. Yep. Which we're going to get to, because I want to talk about one of the big things that we've done here in our organization and talking about some of the books that we've read. So the ticketing system holds us accountable. I think it's interesting that it holds us accountable to the customer, right? Because I think the issue is, and I'm not going to get into it because I got it highlighted in the book here, but just a little foreshadowing, is the fact that accountability is everything, right? And one of the things that we've really done here is the fact that if it's a traditional IT or MSP, and it's been happening for 5, 10, 15 years, we're really looking at that saying, okay, why is that happening? And is that in the best interest of the customer? And I think most often it is not in the best interest of the customer. And what the ticketing system is, I mean, how many times, not here at Smatotech, right, but for you personally, have sent a ticket out to someone that you needed help with and got no response?
Weekly.
I mean, it's the standard, right? And so for us, people love sending tickets into us because why?
Within 30 minutes, you're getting a human responding to you, asking about the issue or asking to resolve it. I mean,
and that's part of our one of our missions for Blue Team, right? Our help desk is the fact that, listen, we're answering the phone call and within 3 rings and respond to every I say 29 minutes. The threshold, just so everyone's clear, is 30 minutes. 29, I think, sounds kind of catchy. You got a 1 minute buffer.
We usually beat 29. So
yeah, I mean that's the maximum, right? And so I think accountability, one to our customers, one to each other, really ties into kind of the culture that we built here. Okay, so I just want to go through this time frame again, right? So you came on to us, kind of worked for 2 years. We probably had 4 guys,
I think
maybe
4.
3, yeah. And so we were kind of growing, but really putting a lot of stuff, kind of in the pipeline. So where did we move you to next? When did you become team lead?
So I became a team lead, not last summer, the summer before. So we're still in our old office. So I think 2 years ago, actually.
Coming out of COVID?
Coming out of COVID, yep.
Yep.
And I think that was, we were just getting, the volume of the requests we were getting and then the size of the team. We're starting to see that we needed someone to help coordinate or kind of delegate and kind of just make sure.
Oversee.
Oversee.
Yep.
Make sure resources were getting allocated the right way.
Now, did we have a team lead before that?
We did not, no.
No, so we had to create that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I had no idea how the hell this thing was going to roll. And you're going to be the team lead, figure it out.
I think that's word for word almost what you said.
Yeah, and which is kind of normal for me. How do you think that's worked out for us?
I think it worked out really well.
Who's sitting behind you now? Because you're not in team lead anymore.
I'm not.
Yep. So Jeremy now is taking over team lead.
Mm-hmm.
I think Jeremy's success in that position is based on what you created to help, with all that documentation.
Mm-hmm.
No way he's sitting at that desk doing what he's doing right now had he not had a predecessor like you coming through and building that up from the ground. Because it really was your desk.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, the buck stopped with you. I mean, and the thing for us is that is the foundation of our business, our help desk, right? People have problems and they want to call in, right? If it's an emergency, they call in. If it's not an emergency, typically they send in, an email, but they need it resolved, right? Technology is so complicated anymore, as you know, right? I mean, think about all the questions that we get on the desk. They're asking the questions, and sometimes we don't necessarily know what the answer is. We just understand how the whole process works, and we can kind of dig into it and get a little bit faster. Technology is complicated, and there's so many intertwined things together. When that's not working, something breaks 3 things. That creates what we call downtime.
Downtime, yep.
Right, and downtime is a killer for organizations, whether that's the internet, whether that's a switch, whether that's a Wi-Fi's not working, whether they can't scan, can't print, everyone hates printers, all these things.
Yeah.
Even mice.
Yep, mice and keyboard. That's what I was about to say. Any of it, I mean, it stops.
Yeah.
Stops work, stops productivity.
How do you think the trust with our customers is?
It's incredible. I was going to use the word insane. There's some customers that is. We brought a new one on recently, and I kind of was joking with Justin that we have these meetings with potential clients, and they always go super well, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But you have people that they want to understand the recommendations we're making, whether it's to remove equipment, add equipment, change a process. In the most recent one we brought in, we've worked with her before, and I don't think we had to convince her on anything. I think she just came in and said, I need you to tell me what we need and what we don't
Oh,
need.
you're talking about Ashley.
I'm talking about Ashley.
We got to get Ashley on here.
I'm talking about Ashley. And it just...
I'm plugging... we're going to make sure we get Ashley tagged on this thing so she can see that we're calling her out.
Yeah, and that's the one that kind of most recently at least struck me as it was just such a... And I mean, she definitely needed some help on the IT side, I think. But it was just a, hey, here's what I'm dealing with. I know it's a mess. Will you guys just kind of help me clean it up? And, you know, there's the pricing and making sure everything, you know...
Yeah, I mean, we have to be in alignment with the market, right? I mean, but the pricing, the technical side of it is not why people are hiring us.
And I don't even think she brought it up. I think it was you know, we'll deal with that as it comes, but I just need to know what we need to do to move the ball forward. And I was joking with Justin and James. It was such an easy meeting because there was no convincing. It was just reaffirming already what we do. It was cool.
Yeah.
It makes you feel good.
Well, we have the same thing going on with Steve.
Steve,
right? Yep. Another one of our executives moving on to another company and already plugging us in the fact that as soon as I get in and get my feet wet, then, you know, we're bringing you guys on because, quote unquote, you guys make my life so much easier. And that's really what the help desk does, right? I think a lot of people, because we have this on our website, we put it in our marketing materials and we do whatever. I think because of the nature of marketing and all of its bullshit, and hyperbole and you know, all the things, people just look at that, or, you know, potential clients just look at it and say, fuck, I mean, sorry, did I say that again? Dang. And anyway, it's like just total bullshit.
Yeah.
Right. And the thing for us is when we get clients in here and we bring them in here, right? We built this office because I wanted to bring clients in here because I want them to see what their IT department looks like. I mean, this is their IT department.
Yeah, it's a team.
It's a full team. You know what I mean? And, you know, we had Kevin and Tommy in here, right, from Michigan. And you can't tell me that Tommy was not like, holy shit, I need this.
I think he spent a lot of time in front of the monitoring TVs.
Yeah. And Russ and Brian were in here, the other day too. But we're very intentional with what we're doing. Okay, so... you didn't know shit from Shinola, right? We brought you on because you're an incredible person. We can put you in front of any customer, right? I think that's important. I think one of the apprehensions that I have before we started to change the interview process is, you know, does our blue team, does our help desk, can a CEO or a C-suite executive call into the help desk, and do I have the confidence in the help desk that they're going to take care of them with the most excellence to get that done? And the answer is yes.
Absolutely.
Right. I mean, Jesse can call in, Chad can call in, Steve can, I mean, it doesn't matter, right? They get treated, you know, kind of the same way. Okay, so you went from knowing nothing to running our entire nucleus, right? The heart and soul of our company. To where are you at now?
So now I'm sitting in, I guess at any other IT company, it would be considered a level 2 role. So I kind of deal with escalations.
I would say level 3.
Level 3 probably.
Yeah. I mean, our level 1, we don't call it,
it's not
we
level
don't
1.
degrade, you know, whatever.
Yeah,
our level 1 is not level 1.
Yeah.
Just so we're clear about that.
Yeah, no, you're 100% right. So I kind of sit in an escalation path now.
Yep.
So primarily, you know, tickets that get, you know, that are long standing that, you know, Blue Team needs some assistance with. But I'd say primarily it's a project kind of role right now. So anything with deadlines or anything that's kind of high priority, you know, there's time and materials put into it. I'm kind of just a resource for James and Justin.
Yeah.
On that side.
And you spend a lot of time in our voice network.
I do spend a lot of time in our voice network.
Yeah. Most of our customers don't even know we're a full telephone company.
Yep.
Yeah. UC Forge. Okay. So that's cool. So that's where you're sitting right now.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I want to reference your journey in our organization because I think it's really, really powerful for a story to tell. And that's why I was like, we got to get Shez in here to talk about this because one of the things for me is I'm a big culture guy, right? And I think a lot of companies struggle with scalability because they haven't built the right foundation from a cultural standpoint to manage what that growth looks like, right? I think a lot of companies got crushed during COVID because they had such an influx of business and they didn't have any processes that could scale. They had processes, but as you know, like I like to ask, right? I mean, I don't like workarounds. I don't like hacks. You know, if we have to make something work right, we call them audibles. We have to call it an audible. The thing for us is, okay, can we scale that audible?
Yep.
And sometimes we can, sometimes we can't, but we sit down and we look at it, right, through our natural feedback loops, which we're going to get to in one of the books, and evaluate what that is. Because if it's not scalable, then why the hell are we doing it?
Yep.
All right. Scalability is everything, right? We already know, and you're a part of this. A year ago, we were trying to figure out how are we going to scale the help desk, right? And we came up with, the concept of pods.
Yep.
And we're working through, we already know what our second pod looks like and what our third pod looks like, right? We're going to have Alpha, Bravo, and Charlie.
Yep.
And we kind of have geared and put together leadership roles for, those guys sitting on our blue team right now know that they're going to be leads going into that.
Mm-hmm.
And I think when you create that vision for the guys, and I think you're a part of that, I think that gets them really excited about where we're going.
I agree. I think it gives them kind of a North Star of a sense to look what to work towards or what potential options are here.
Yeah.
Moving forward.
Yeah. And I think that's where we get to have those conversations about, listen, I'm here answering these phone calls, right, to get better. So when I'm called up, right, to be the Bravo team, lead, I'm ready to do that, right? So I'm grinding right now. And I always kind of go back to kind of the athlete that's sitting on the team that's not getting a lot of playing time, that's not getting, from a high school varsity sport, right? Maybe they're a sophomore. They're not getting a lot of playing time, but they got to put in the work. So when they get called up, someone gets hurt, right? Someone gets sick, someone has a problem with grades or whatever it is, that they can step in and fill that role.
Yeah, ready to perform. Yep.
Yeah, next man up, right? I hear that term all the time too. So, okay, before we get into what the three books are, talk to me about how important, from a cultural standpoint, it has been for us to read leadership development books as a team.
Well, huge. And one thing I think that's the biggest thing about it is I don't think there's other places really doing that. You scroll through LinkedIn, you see people posting books, and it's usually their marketing teams, their sales teams. But I don't think there's a lot of companies that have someone, where the president is sitting down with the guy that's been here 2 weeks and discussing a book as a team, kind of going over, I got this concept from this chapter, versus what someone else got. But it's huge. I mean, the first book we read that we're going to go over, Excellence Wins, I think that one is a big backbone of how we operate and make decisions when you're out of town or you're not available. Justin's not available. I think a lot of the leadership on the help desk, actually, that how I would navigate situations and make decisions was Excellence Wins. So I think it's powerful, for that. It helped develop a process or a way of thinking for leaders, but then also to just kind of see the similarities, because most of them tie back to a business or are dealing with businesses, to kind of see that everyone runs into the same problems. The question is, are you trying to get better? Are you just kind of acknowledging, okay, hey, this is a pain. This is just how we do it. We know it's a problem. We're going to deal with it. Whereas these books kind of create like you said, a feedback loop of, oh, they have a similar issue and they tackled it with this kind of a, solution, or, vice versa. I think it gives us ideas, but two, it also just kind of creates a constant loop of thinking and analyzing, evaluating, because that's what the books are for. They're to get better.
Yeah, and I think it kind of puts us all on the same page, right? And we're going to kind of talk about how we read the books together, kind of what the format is, and the fact that we had you led the discussion for our last book with Jocko Willnick's Extreme Ownership, which is right here, which is kind of
one of my favorites.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so let's talk about Excellence Wins, right? So for you people that are not familiar with it, here's the book. Horst Schulze is the co-founder of the Ritz-Carlton. And I'm telling you, I think there's a lot of similarities to what we do here that made the Ritz-Carlton successful. And I think it's a point to make is the fact that just because it was going on in the hotel industry, doesn't mean that those big concepts can be rolled out to other industries. And we've taken those concepts and rolled them out into technology.
Yeah.
Right. So what was your big takeaway with Excellence Wins?
Excellence Wins. There's a couple. I think the biggest one for me is, and it's kind of the one I mentioned a little bit, is they go over a big, you have hotel managers and then you have all your staff. You maybe have a kitchen manager, a front desk manager. You're not always going to have someone to make a call for you when you have a upset guest or, customer, whatever it may be. And something to kind of go over in Excellence Wins is you have to create, you have to empower employees throughout the organization.
Dude, people, you need to write down that word empower. We talk about empowerment a lot around here.
Yeah. And that's the word that, kind of the concept we got the most from that book is he really puts an emphasis on, whether you're, housekeeping and you're cleaning up a room and that guest is leaving and they're upset about something, you're empowered with a set amount of money, a set amount of resources to make the situation better, to make the customer happy.
Right.
And it's a little different the way we use it in our organization, but that concept is, you hammer that home all the time. How are you going to know what decision to make if you're put in this situation, you're out in the field, you're out of state, versus me being there or someone else? And it's kind of it's discussing it all the time. Hey, when we deal with this, I want you to know I'm confident in you making that call. So I'd say empowering employees to feel like they have a choice, a decision to make.
Choice is another great word.
And choice is a good one. And then the other part of it too is something they discussed, the Ritz-Carlton, such a classy hotel, the way the staff dresses, the way they speak to you as a guest.
Ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah. Yep. So, we have jokes with clients. We talk to certain clients a little different. Maybe we've known them for a while, but that comes from us being professional at all times. And not professional in the way of being rigid or, arrogant, but just, we respect you. We want to help you. And I think eventually that's what creates those relationships.
It's interesting. Some of the words I would use to describe the help desk definitely are not technical words, right? Non-technical. I mean, those guys, they're nice, they're friendly. They people enjoy talking to them on the phone, right? I mean, I read through the tickets, the conversations that we're having with them, right? I mean, we really are building relationships. I mean, when you talk to an IT guy, and you say, okay, describe that person, you're typically not using the words compassion, kind, friendly, empathetic, funny, right? But no one also is not going to say that we're not smart.
Yep.
Right? We're hiring super technical guys that understand what's going on, but that's just not it, right? Like even for me in the interview process, the first round of interviews for me now is the fact that I'm not even looking at the resume. I could give two shits about what's going on because you can write anything, you can say anything. And what was the change that we just implemented in the last round of interviews? Because we got tired of the nonsense of people saying that they could do this and they couldn't do this. What did James build for us?
So essentially James built a lab, an interview lab, yeah.
Yeah, an interview lab. And they don't even get to me until they go through that, gauntlet and making sure that they have the technical side of what it is. And then they come to me and then we're saying, okay, who are you as a person, right? And people, they're like deer in the headlights with some of the questions that I'm asking them, right? Because I'm trying, like with you, the interview process with you, I want to know who you are as a person because if I'm not around, I need to know that you and I are on the same page. And I think the books are a really easy way for companies to do that.
Yeah.
I think it's in order to do that though. I mean, it's a big cultural shift. You know what I mean? Because you would get employees. Imagine, employees like, I don't want to read that book. I don't want to do all that stuff too. But anyway, all right. So the big takeaway from you and Excellence Wins, empowerment.
Empowerment.
What an incredible word, and it's part of one of our pillars, right? I mean, I want and I would say all those guys are empowered. Right, Kyle, even the new guy sitting on the desk right now. I mean, he's like, he doesn't know what to do with all of this. You know what I mean?
Yep.
I mean, he's on the desk having a good time, right?
Yeah.
If he were to go to another IT sport, he would be miserable,
And he was.
And he was, okay.
He's admitted
I wasn't
that.
going to say that, but yeah, right. The company that he came for was obnoxiously terrible.
Yep.
Right. Traditional, sides of it. So with that, I think it's interesting on page 174, the quote here is, innovation is often squelched in the name of tradition. And I think that's important for us to talk about because there are a lot of things that we talk about here. Listen, if that's what's traditional, and you read a lot of Reddit,
Yep.
right? I mean, you're always coming back with, okay, this is what's going on in traditional IT companies. This is what they say. This is how, billing and support. We just had a big conversation about asset recovery.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing for me is I'm always giving pushback to you and saying, okay, well, if those monkeys have been doing it, is it pro customer or is it pro IT company? And we have some healthy, conversations about that. But I think for us, we're trying to change the way that technology, managed IT, ITSP, whatever we're going to call this thing, is changed. Because I think IT companies need to be better. Because they're so small businesses, medium-sized businesses, even enterprise are so dependent upon technology that when that shit breaks, they got to have the confidence in the team that they're going to call. And as well as I do, we talk to everyone off the street and they're just like, our IT team is terrible. And the thing that I'll kind of give a little bit of pushback for that. They're not necessarily terrible, but a lot of businesses don't give those IT teams the resources that they need to be successful.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say we don't do that here. We got a shit ton of resources out there, and we go through a lot of things all in the name of helping us, complete the mission, right? We keep your computers and internet running fast and secure, right? That's our mission statement, which came out of this book. Right. Okay. So what does Horst, instill in his organizations to help go through? What's the ritual that they do before every shift?
It was the debrief meetings,
Yep.
wasn't it? Essentially like a post-op or pre-op. It's probably what Jocko would call it.
Yep.
But it's it's the same thing we go through. It's what's going on.
And where did we learn that?
From this book.
Yeah.
But it kind of is a quick discussion of, hey, what's working, what's not working, and what can we do better?
And what do we call that?
We call that our feedback loop.
Feedback loop.
Yep.
Yeah, we're constantly analyzing what worked, what didn't work, and what can we do to be better.
Yep.
Right? Those are the three questions
All the
over
time.
and over and over again. What else do we like about this one? You got? Did you take notes? Is that your copy?
This one's my copy.
Yeah.
I wrote in this one a bit. This one I think really created the whole. So actually, I do remember we had discussions around, like you had mentioned, having, should C-suites or presidents of companies be able to call in, and should we have a dedicated team to help them? And I think that discussion, kind of stemmed around the same time frame we were reading this book. In this book, talks about whether you're you're working in the kitchen or, like I said, a housekeeping person or working at the front desk, they all interact the exact same way. They all have a level of professionalism they speak with, they treat people with. And that kind of answered our question when we were having those discussions, should Chad or Steve call in? Should we have a team answer those phones? And I think you kind of shut it down and said that defeats the whole culture we've been building. Yeah. Because we're hiring guys that can do that, whether they have the technical answer, they have a team that'll help them out with that. But they can communicate with them. They can, a lot of the time, solve the issue.
Yeah.
So, that's the biggest thing that stands out to me is the empowerment to make decisions when needed, in critical moments. And then just the way we handle ourselves, whether it's me on site or Jason on site or Kyle, you may have a different person there, but they're going to interact with you and treat you the exact same way. You bring up an issue with your mouse to them or the server being down, and they're going to handle that issue with the same level of urgency and care. And I think that comes from Horst, kind of what we learned from him.
Yeah, and I
think so.
Yeah, and I think the interesting thing is, right, the way that they scaled the Ritz. Right? So when you go to one Ritz-Carlton, whether it's in, Chicago or Atlanta or, wherever, even, out of the country, you're going to get the same experience. That is really hard to scale, right? And the thing for us is we're not in the hotel business. We're in the technology support business. But I looked at that and I was like, okay, we want to grow, right? Because I think we have a really good thing here, right? And obviously we're continuing to grow, right? So the market is saying, oh, that's fantastic. But we're growing with intention, right? So one of the things, like you talked about horse, right? So in front of every operation or shift, I think they would go through their 10 principles, and they would rattle off one principle, right? And someone would, talk about it, popcorn it, and do whatever. So what have we done here to kind of mimic that?
So every Friday,
Yep.
We do a team meeting. We do lunch.
Yep.
You bring in lunch for us every Friday. I don't know if people know that.
Yeah.
So when we eat, we go over.
What are we doing for lunch today?
We're doing Boise Fry Company.
Boise Fry Company today.
I think it's a first. I don't know. We've never done.
Yeah, maybe
right
not.
up the road.
Yeah. Victor
picked with James.
Victor picked you up. Yeah. Perfect.
But so every time we do that, as soon as we start eating, we go over the mission statement and the vision statement, along with our pillars.
And then who recites what those are?
Usually it's the new guy.
Yeah.
Usually.
Yep.
And then obviously there was a point in time we didn't have one, so everyone make sure they're still sharp.
Does everyone on the floor know what our mission and vision statements are?
Absolutely. Yep.
Yeah. Yep. They know what it's important. It's just not words on a wall. I mean, it's our damn North Star. It's like, the DNA of what Adams Technology Group is.
It is. It really, if you're in a situation where, hey, I don't know what to do here, it's pretty easy to think back, well, what's my goal working here? And it's, one, technology is what we do, not who we are. I'm going to be a human while I'm interacting with this person. And then the other side of it, I need to keep your computer and your internet running fast and secure. It's pretty easy to make the decision now.
Yeah.
If those are my guiding, my North Star again, it's pretty easy to make the call in that situation.
Yeah, and I think, for most, business owners and whatnot, it took me a long time to come up with our vision statement and mission statement. And as you know, it kind of changed iterations a little bit, but it was the process that we worked together as an organization trying to put into words, right, what those things are. And it just didn't happen overnight, right? But I knew that when I read the book, we needed to have, and I'll be honest with you, we created the mission statement first. Right, because the vision statement for us is bigger than what our technology company does, right? I mean, my job here is to make you the best human being you can be, right? And I think, the conversations that we've had, that's what it is, right? My job is here to help facilitate people to be the best versions of themselves, right? That kind of sounds cliche, but if I can help you be a better person, who benefits from that?
Everyone.
Yeah,
you,
right?
Me, my family, friends. Yeah.
Strangers, right? Everyone. The ripple effects are powerful. So for me, excellence wins. There's so Katie Buck, who was our interior designer for the new space. I didn't know she went out of on her own.
Oh,
so she's
doing
in. And I was like, first of all, enthusiastic. I love that. But I bought and I sent this book to her. And so she's coming on the podcast. And we're going to talk about it, that's right? Because she helped design the podcast room. Now, I changed her design a little bit, so she may not, like it very much, but the core concept from hers is there. So we're going to go in kind of in detail about this. But I was in this, for a company starting out or a company that's around and just knows that their culture is shit and they got to make some changes because they don't have a competitive edge, this book can do that, right? But implementing the stuff that's in here is crazy. So typically what I do for the books, I just kind of go through and I write kind of what's the big takeaway for me on this book. And I definitely would say mission, right? Feedback loops, right? How are we getting better? And then 2, leading is an acquired skill, right? You don't come out of the womb as a leader. You might have some traits, right? You might, but leadership is an ongoing skill development.
Always.
Right? And as I always say, you are the leader of one. If you cannot lead yourself, you are not going to be able to lead other people. You may be in a management role. That makes you a manager. That doesn't make you a leader, right? We all know managers who are shitty leaders, right? Because they think that those terms are synonymous. No, they're not synonymous. Leadership is completely different. We have leaders on Blue Team that are not in leadership roles, right? but as soon as we continue to grow, we put them in there too. So anyway, Excellence Wins, fantastic book. Let's talk about your book is packed away in a box, but let's just talk about the second book that we read. Second book, right? Leadership and Self-Deception. Mm-hmm. What was kind of the big takeaway for you in that book?
That one was huge. I think I had mentioned when we read that one, I took a lot more away from that one in a personal way than I did in a work sense. That I actually had my whole family read that book too.
That's you did?
Yeah. So my dad read it, my mom read it, and my sister.
No shit.
So I really liked that one. But I think the biggest takeaway is you're going to run into speed bumps or any kind of problems,
challenges, whatever you want to call them.
Whatever you want to call them. And it's really hard when you hit those situations to not think about your side of it. So, I'm trying to get to work and someone cuts me off and runs me off the road, right? You're in your head. I just got cut off. I just had to drive off the side of the road. Now I'm late to work. In this book kind of details the situation of not necessarily thinking, hey, what are they going through or what are they also trying to accomplish, but just kind of what can I control from this situation?
Right.
What can I do to make this better for both of us rather than, getting pissed off, speeding up behind them, honking your horn. It really goes over, how do I help the person on the other side of the conflict, whatever the challenge? How do I help them almost? It's really, there's a lot to it, but it's getting out of your own head, I guess, in most
Well, they call it the box.
The box.
Right, the box in the book. The thing that's interesting to me about this book is it's in storybook form, right? So it's it's based on true story, with some, the names have been changed and whatnot. But the big word that comes out of here from me is empathy, right? So this is what's happening. This is what happened, right? The event is the event, right? What creates the emotion is the trigger, right? And how you either react or
respond,
right? Justin talked about that on the podcast with him.
Oh, really?
Right, as one of his kind of big takeaways. Right, I think everyone on our floor, right, understands the difference between reacting and responding. Right, that's a skill. Right.
Yeah.
I mean, there are even times today I'm not perfect about that. I will react, but the thing for me is the fact that I know when I react, and now I get to go through and just remedy it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think reaction versus response was huge in this book.
Yeah, and the bigger part, I mean, I react a lot. I'm still working on it, but something I think that's interesting. It doesn't tell you not to react.
So you react a lot. Yep. Okay, fair enough. But now you're aware.
Yep.
So now you can work on it.
Yeah, and I analyze it now. So if you can tell when you react, maybe not right in the moment, but there's that feeling once you settle down and go, oh, well, that was. You got fired up or you took something the wrong way, whatever it is. But now just reading the book, even in those situations where maybe you don't respond when you could have, you then have the kind of after the fact to think, oh, well, this situation arises again. I know what not to do or what I can do better. It just makes you think about it. It makes you see the flaw or whatever it is for what it is.
Right. And then you put through your feedback loop, right? What worked, what didn't work, what can I do better? I think, kind of the next level, which we kind of talk about is, okay, so what are my triggers, right? What are the triggers that I know, like for me, blame, right? If you're going to come at me, you're going to blame something for me, you're going to get the wrath of fire. And because that's just my normal, response reaction. So understanding us as individuals, and everyone has different, triggers. Yeah. And then what happens, when we do get triggered, right? And kind of controlling that and making sure. And the thing about it is the response or the emotion that you're feeling is not wrong, right? What makes it wrong is, you being the jerk on the other side and saying shit that you probably are going to regret versus, sitting back and taking it all in. And then what's one of the things that you do and the guys, take a lot of heat, right? I mean, think of it. They're not taking phone calls or like, hey, everything's great. They're like taking calls from people that are stressed out, that they're trying to run payroll and the damn printer won't work, or their internet's down and they're trying to get stuff accomplished.
Yep.
Those are high stress situations.
Yeah.
So for you, when you know that you're kind of being triggered, right? Something has happened in the office. What do you do to calm that and make sure that you're not going to react and respond?
It varies, I think, in different situations. One thing, when it's really heated or, more heated than normal, there's always the take a walk, get a lap in, get some thoughts. I think a lot of people, when they react or something triggers them, they don't take time to think about it. I recognize when my heart rate raises, my face gets red.
So most people don't understand. There's a physical reaction to that emotion.
A change.
Yep.
There's something. So big thing is just being able to acknowledge it and then, okay, I'm feeling this way, but that's because of this. Now let's look at it from a neutral perspective. Kind of pull yourself up out of the firing line,
Right.
One way to put it. And then it kind of helps you process, okay, now that I understand this is a reaction, what is the best way to handle this moving forward? So slowing down is probably the simple way to put that. I told the guys that a lot on the desk is, hey, when you're in these high stress situations, slow it down. Step by step, think of what's going on. Why are you feeling this way? And I think it's important, especially, no one calls IT when stuff's working.
No, I'm telling you.
That's something the first 2 years working here, I told Justin, we deal with people when something's wrong. That it's the same. This is a stretch of comparison, but when you go in to see a nurse, whether it's for an injury, you're not feeling good, most nurses all have that same kind of care and empathy in the way they interact with you, right? I'm not comparing us to nurses or the way we interact with our clients, but it is that same thing. Hey, you're reaching out to me because something's wrong.
Yeah.
You're frustrated or you just need to get something done. And I think if you remember that, it makes those situations that are a little more tense a lot easier to respond. And then, just kind of that thought process of, okay, my heart rate's raising. Why is that? They're a little frustrated. I'd be frustrated too.
Right. So let's talk about our customer service pillar. What are the three components of that?
Of the customer service one?
Yeah.
It's the 3 E's. It's efficient, effective, and empathetic.
Okay, empathetic, right? One of the things that we always talk about here is the fact that, listen, we need to be empathetic to our customers. There's our clients. They're just calling in to try to get a problem fixed. It's nothing personal against us. And I think one of the things that we do a really good job is being empathetic and understanding that's what's going on. And I think our clients, in fact, I know our clients love that. Mm-hmm. Right? Because our clients will just call us, for stupid stuff.
Yep.
You know what I mean? But they call us for stupid stuff. Because we can find the answer. And two, we're really nice when we kind of provide the answer.
Yeah, we understand. We understand why.
Yeah, leadership and self-deception. So for those people out there, for listeners, this is required reading going forward for all of our employees. Mm-hmm. Kyle's reading this right now. I think Aaron is in the process of reading it. And then, I think now that I just thought about this, maybe Kyle and I we'll sit here on the podcast and we'll go over this book together because every employee has to go through this, right? Because if you can't embrace this or you're going to struggle with this, you're not going to make it here because you're not going to fit the culture.
Yeah, because I think it's personal. I think that book hits a personal part of people, and I think it's a big telltale whether they can, like I said, not immediately start to correct things, but just understand why that's important.
Yeah, and how we work together, right? Justin will always talk about, listen, we serve two customers, right? Or two clients, our internal, right? Mm-hmm. Each other, first and foremost, right? If we can't be respectful to each other, we're not going to be respectful to our customers, right? And I think there's a lot of people that run two-faced organizations, right?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, and we can go down that rat hole and talk about organizational alignment and whatnot. But reacting versus responding, part two, I mean, that's kind of the whole thing. Mm-hmm. That's probably the big takeaway from me. And there's a lot of acquired skills that come out of this too. So I did not know that you had your family read that book.
Yep, they all read it.
And what was their feedback?
So my dad really liked it. So the first person I had to read it was my dad because he reads these books quite a bit, and he is in a pretty large leadership role with the state.
Yep.
And he's very analytical. We're similar, but he kind of told me it's good for me to remember that there's another side of things, that I have, ways you want things done, or, templates put in place, but there's always the other side of it. There's something else. There's the person, and then there's the thing.
Yeah.
And what was cool is when we had my sister read it, she was going through some stuff personally, actually, with a breakup.
Oh, yeah.
So I think that's
boyfriends are killers.
Boyfriends are killers. But it kind of helped her step away from the, woe is me,
Victim.
Victim mentality, and kind of help her kind of see what she could do moving forward. They all loved it. It was pretty cool that they actually read it.
Good for you. And I think that that's just one of the powerful things is the fact that that's the ripple effect, right? I mean, how is this book going to make, Shez a better human being, right? Because if you can be a better human being, everyone benefits from that. And me, sitting in a leadership role is the fact that is really at the end of the day what my job is, right? Creating a culture and environment for you guys to flourish, right? Technically and non-technically, right? We can also talk about, the technically and the continuing education and all the stuff that we can do here. But at the end of the day, I mean, if you really think about what we do, anyone can go get a WatchGuard firewall. Mm-hmm. Anyone can go to Amazon and get a Ubiquity access point, right? You can go get a computer in a million different places, but that's not why our clients are doing business with us. It's how we handle them. We answer every phone call within 3 rings and respond to every ticket in 29 minutes, right? And we're scaling the shit out of that right now, right? Yeah. People, I mean, that think that's real easy to do, right? You and I both know the operational stuff that we put together to make that happen to scale is really powerful. Okay, let's talk about the third book. Lastly, this is your book. So let's talk about how we read this together, team. Take us through the format of how you took us, kind of through that.
Yeah. So first, you told me, hey, I think the next book we read, I'm going to have you pick it. I'm going to have you lead the discussions on it.
Yeah.
So I had actually been doing a lot of reading into Jocko's stuff online, and then I had family reach out to me and say I might like his stuff. And I told you, well, I want to read Extreme Ownership. I've heard good things about it. So what we did is we'd kind of, depending on how long the chapters were, we'd get the guys together and say, hey, next Monday we're going to have read chapter 1, chapter 2. We're going to have a discussion about it.
And then, so take us through the discussion. Yep.
Yep. And then, I'd essentially say, hey, this chapter, I think this is what they were trying to get across. This is how I think it relates to us as an organization. And then I like to try and say, this is also how I think it relates to me as a person. Because I think it's important to see that there's a personal side and the business side to it. And it would just open up discussions. A lot of the time we'd have ongoing things that a chapter would hit right on the head. Hey, we're struggling with this. We can't figure out the best way to navigate this. And, sure enough, that chapter that week was dealing with something similar. So it was just open conversations where I'd say, hey, I took this away from this chapter. What did you think? Hey, do you think that's something we run into at Smattertech?
Why do you think it was important to get feedback from the rest of the team?
Because I think everyone has different experiences that bring, a different light onto what we're reading, what we're learning.
Yeah, shit. I mean, I got a lot of notes in here, and I got notes. I think I told you this, right? I was taking notes that my thoughts in one color, and then I was taking the team's thoughts, in a different color.
Yeah, no,
because I'm like, shit, I never thought about it like that.
Yeah, and that's the perspective. I guess that's probably the best way to put it is, I think, oh, this is what this means. This is what they're trying to get across. And then we start talking about it. And Jeremy's actually like, this is what I, interpreted this as. And, you never think to look at it from his perspective. You didn't have the same experiences as him. And all of a sudden it means 10 times more than it did,
Yeah. So we would give basically the team a week to read 1 or 2 chapters, depending on how long the chapter was, right? Mm-hmm. And then on Monday at like 4:00, we kind of try to wrap up. We'd sit around the table, and what would go on, this popcorn, conversation would just go on, right?
Yes. There's times.
Did everyone participate?
Yes, I think everyone participated.
Yeah, there was always something that people could, kind of relate to, both from a professional standpoint and from a
personal
standpoint.
I want to say after that first one, it wasn't me starting the conversations. I started, hey, this first chapter, this is what I, thought, what I kind of took from it. And then that next week it was Jason, I actually really like this. I use this at home with, with my roommate or whatnot. And then it was Jeremy next week. And then it kind of just, the discussions would lead themselves because people wanted to get better. So I think when they'd read it, they were actually finding things they enjoyed.
Yeah.
It made it easy on me.
Yeah. And I think people, generally want to be, kind of better. Do you think it helped the fact that everyone was kind of reading it together so they could all relate to it, together?
Absolutely. Yeah. I think, one, for accountability, you don't want to be the guy that said, I forgot to read this week.
Mm-hmm.
But then just I think everyone here has some kind of relationship that they're genuinely interested to hear what someone else's opinion is, whether it's to tell them they disagree,
right,
but they can see why they think that way, or to think differently themselves. So I think it just turned into this awesome discussion every week where we got to kind of chat. And
do you think it would have been different had we just said, okay, here's your book, you got a month to read it, and we'll set a time in the future to get down? Do you think that would have worked?
I don't think so. I don't even think a majority of the guys would have finished it if we would have done it that way.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there was a lot of accountability, and there was accountability because it was important for us. Mm-hmm. And it's important for me because of the culture, right? The thing for me is the fact that when we have these discussions, we get to really start to see how people think and how they feel. Mm-hmm. And once we see how people start to think and feel, we can then start being, empathetic, and we can start, being a little bit more real. Mm-hmm. Because I think at the end of the day, some of our employees sit in organizations that's pretty fake, right? They show up one way to work to get through the job, and then they go home and they're a completely, kind of different person.
Yep.
That's terrible, right? Because they're leading, two different lives. We want people to come here. You've heard me say this before. If you have a problem going from your car, walking through the parking lot, through the front door to your desk, and you don't like what's about to happen, you're not going to fit in here.
Yeah, no. Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
Yeah, I mean, I look out there, I listen to the conversations that we're having, right? I mean, more often than not, we got two guys sitting around working on a ticket together. The way that we've got the entire floor is very collaborative. I mean, I was talking to Justin about this the other day. I mean, how do we communicate to our clients about how much work we put into completing the mission? It's hard.
You have to see it.
You have to see it. So that's one of the reasons why we got the new office, right? Because in our old office, we were packed in like sardines, right? That served its purpose. But to be honest with you, the other thing is we were there for a long time because I couldn't find the space that was going to be a part of the culture. Mm-hmm. And would you say that this space is in alignment with what our vision is for our culture?
Absolutely. I think when I finally saw it for the first time, I said, you couldn't have. This is what we drew up on paper, and it just happened to be here.
Right.
It was exactly what we wanted.
Yeah, and we got to get a lot of credit to John Rodel, right, mm-hmm. who found us the other space and found us this space. The guys at Thornton Oliver Keller were fantastic, right? And the carpet, the paint, the studio, right? We got to give a little street cred to Trey, right? My 12-year-old for putting all this together. That was his summer work project.
His project.
So what was the big takeaway for you in Extreme Ownership?
I think the biggest thing with extreme, it ties back into your biggest trigger, I think, blame. Mm-hmm. So we were
back to the title.
Yeah.
If you're not blaming, you're
owning. You're owning. And I don't think I'm super blameful. I can be. I think everyone can be to a point, but we deal with vendors and other IT companies a lot. That's kind of the way we operate. That's just part of what we do. And I don't think that's ever going to be an easy thing, depending on who you're dealing with. In this book, it kind of opened up different methods of handling things. So, you may not have the control to get what you want in a situation. You're dealing with a vendor, there's an outage. But the way you own the discussion to the customer of what you're trying to do to get them back online or, whatever it may be, and then how you interact with the vendor and how you relay that information, I think we do that the way we do because of Extreme Ownership. I think there's this hey, I'm not CenturyLink. I didn't take your internet down, but I'm going to act like I did, and I'm going to figure out what we can do to get you back up and running.
Yeah, that's right. That's a really good example.
It takes complaint. It takes the is it the 3 C's or the 4 C's? The criticize, complain, compete. Is it compare? Maybe it's 4.
It's compare. It's 4.
And you used to bring that up.
The evil 4 C's.
The evil 4 C's used to bring that up to me a lot, and reading this book and trying to adapt what Jocko's trying to teach you, you almost take those 4 C's out of everything because it doesn't matter what someone else is doing. I'm not trying to compete. I'm not trying to compare. I'm not going to criticize because now it's my issue, and I'm going to own it, and I'm going to figure out what the answer is.
Is that why we sometimes have long-standing tickets?
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, shit. I just saw a ticket that Jeremy's got we're waiting for the damn vendor to come back. I think that, let's talk about it real quick. I think one of the things we have long-standing tickets is we are always typically waiting on a vendor or a customer to get back to us.
Yep.
When we say we're going to rock and roll, I mean, we're rock and rolling, right? Our onboarding process is like money. We're turning hardware pairs around in 24 hours.
There's more situations that we are getting the device there before they have a desk for them than the other way around where they're waiting on us.
Yeah. Or we're, taking ownership of what the problem is. And we've got this ticket because me, I'm like, why in the hell we got a ticket that we've been sitting on for 18 days? Mm-hmm. Well, we're waiting for the vendor to get back to us to try to figure out what's going on. Yeah. Right. That bullshit is the problem that kills the reputation of, technology companies. Mm-hmm. That culture, you imagine what that culture is like?
Not good. It's bad.
It's not good, right? I mean, what the hell's the point of having a ticketing system if you're not going to, use a ticketing system? So, that's why we back to the thing. So we built the space to bring clients in because I knew that they needed to see it. They needed to feel it. They needed to understand, like, when you walk through those doors. And you know what? Ashley Taylor, when we did not bring customers or clients into ours until we did Ashley. And based on her response, I was like, shit, we got to be doing that with all of our C-suite people.
Yeah, she loved it.
She loved it, right? And Steve loved it, and Jesse loves it, and it's a thing now. But now we're also bringing in potential clients. And the thing for me is the fact that if you don't come in and you don't want to spend time on our organization to understand us, you're really not going to be a customer for us. Yeah. Because if you're just looking for some technical stuff, right, some break fix guy, that's not what we do. There are 100 of those guys out there. Mm-hmm. There is only one Smatec.
Yeah, we are unique. We are one of a kind.
Yeah, we are one of a kind. And I don't just say that. I mean, we have an entire thread in our Teams channel that all talks about celebrations, mm-hmm. right? And those celebrations, which is one of our pillars on people, is we celebrate those wins, no matter how small they are, right? And that's one of the things that we do in our employee meetings. So every day when we have lunch, we go around the office and we talk about celebrations, mm-hmm. Personally, professionally, whatever. And then we do mission, vision, and then the 4 pillars, mm-hmm. right? And everyone knows that, right? And so the celebrations are a feedback loop for us that the team gets to share with the rest of the team. Yeah. And it goes out and everyone sees it.
Yeah, I think it's huge. I think there's just so many things we are involved in. It's cool to see.
How many organizations do you think are doing that?
The way we do it, none.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of unique, right? I mean, it's kind of fantastic. We get a lot of just, emails out of the blue, right?
Just, hey, want to say how great your team is. Yeah. You get it.
Yeah. Rachel Brown sent that. And we're going to use that in kind of, some marketing stuff for us too. So the biggest takeaway for me in extreme ownership is check the ego.
Check the ego.
Right. I mean, if you can't control, right, your ego is really, really powerful. And it's either working for you or working against you. And from a leadership standpoint, you got to understand that. Mm-hmm. Right. And I think all 3 of those books, kind of play into that. But I think your takeaway on there is ownership. We own everything. Mm-hmm. Right. Customers are sending tickets into us because they trust us. Right. And we keep those tickets open and we find answers to some of the craziest, damn questions that we don't even It's really not even in our scope, but we don't ever say it's not our problem.
Yep, never.
Right? We never blame CenturyLink. We never blame, Syringa or, one of the big things, supply chain bullshit. Yeah. Right? Think about all the fucking people that said, well, we can't do that because we can't get material.
Yeah.
Bullshit. Right? So one of the things that we did was we tripled our inventory.
Stocked up.
We stocked up, and we were buying shit at retail. And people are like, well, people aren't going to pay the market, whatever. I said, it's not the point.
Yep.
That's a different discussion. If you don't have the product, you don't even get to have the discussion. We have the product, right? So one of the rooms, our inventory is not for retail. Mm-mm. Our inventory is for when shit breaks.
Yep.
Right? We're not having to. So we've got a customer that's offboarding, right? Mm-hmm. And they're changing IT companies, which is fine. But she sent me a note the other day and said, hey, listen, we're 2 weeks out on equipment. What do you think my response to that is?
In this, we probably have it.
Well, I'm just saying that the fact that how's that even possible?
Yeah. What do you mean?
I mean, we have watch guards. I mean, the amount of inventory that we have, right? So coming out of COVID, all the supply chain stuff, we tripled our inventory. We took everything and said, okay, multiply it by 3. I do not ever want to give the customer the response of, we don't have that, we can't get it because of supply chain.
Yep.
That's ownership. Right? That's ownership, right? If you can use that as an excuse to provide shitty customer service, yep. Right? That's not happening with us, right? I mean, think about all the damn cables. I mean, I don't know what these hardware guys are thinking. I mean, how many different monitor adapters do we have to carry in stock?
We keep quite a bit.
There's like 6 different ones, and then you got all the links, right? I mean, all of these technologies, and I'm just like, can't these people figure out? It's like power adapters. How many power adapters do we need to have? HP's got a power adapter. IBM's got a power adapter. That's not good for the environment. No, I mean, shit, you lose one of those things, it goes to a landfill, right? And we can go down that rat hole, but it's just a power adapter.
Yeah, it's pro vendor, not pro customer. That's why.
Yeah. Pro vendor, not pro customer too.
Exactly
So on a scale of 1 to 10, how important do you think? Well, let me ask you this: what's the next book?
Oh, that's a good question. I think the one I want to read next is the 5 Dysfunctions of a Team.
Oh.
And I think you did. Yep, the 5 Dysfunctions of a Team. That's one I've been told multiple times I need to read. That one I have heard really good things about. I don't remember who's the author of that one.
Patrick Lencioni.
But I think that's the next one I wanted to read.
You haven't read this one yet?
I have not yet.
Okay, so I read this book in the morning, right? I have a problem sometimes. And they did their assessment.
Oh, okay.
Right? And then I brought you guys in.
That's right. We did fill that out. Yep.
So I was like, oh, I got to do this. So I read the book in the morning, came in, printed off all of those things, brought you guys in privately, yep. Had you fill out all of that, and I didn't tell you shit from Shinola what was going on. Just answer the questions honestly. I don't have it here, but it was understanding and overcoming the 5 dysfunctions. We didn't have a dysfunctional team. Mm-mm. We had a badass team.
Of course.
and that's what I wanted to know. I'm like, because the thing for me is sitting as from the president is the fact that I have to create my own feedback loops. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. You guys provide those feedback loops for me, but you know what? Sometimes you give me the bullshit about telling me what I want to hear.
Yeah.
I think Justin is getting better. James just tells me the way that it is. I think you're pretty good about telling me the way it is. Mm-hmm. But you guys have also been here for a long time.
Yep.
The other guys, Victor, I think is all those guys. Just trying to understand. I can handle the feedback. Mm-hmm. What I can handle is not the right feedback.
Yeah,
right? So
honesty.
Yeah, honestly, right? And I think presidents and CEOs, owners of companies, right, in order to make, and as dads and as parents and as adults, I think one of the things that we don't get is facts. In order for people to make the best decisions for them going forward in their lives, they need to have the facts. In this day and age, with all of social media, with all of the news and all that other big, shit, where do you find the facts?
It's almost impossible.
It's almost impossible to find the facts. Listen, I just want the facts. I don't need your bullshit opinion.
Yep.
Right? Your opinion is your opinion. right? I just need the facts, and it's getting harder and harder to, to find those facts. So feedback, right, has to be delivered in the right way, right? Not only do you have to receive the feedback, okay, but at the same time, it's like you and I playing catch, right? If I'm going to throw you shitty balls, you're not going to be able to catch them. So I have to throw you a good pass. You have to then catch it, and then you have to throw me a good pass, right? It's a team effort.
Yep. It has to be done the right way.
It has to be done the right way. And we also talk about one of the things is it has to be done in excellence, right? So the 5 dysfunctions of a team, I think you and I, we can sit down and talk about this because there was some really powerful stuff in that book. Yeah. Okay, so we try to do 2 books a year, right? I think that's we did Extreme Ownership. We finished in the spring.
Yep.
So we'll be picking a book to kind of roll out for fall. And we try to roll through in about 6 weeks. That's about to read, depending on the chapters. This one's going to be pretty, pretty quick. Short. Yeah.
Do that in a week.
Yeah. You know what? We could do it in a week.
Could try and do that.
Listen, this has been fantastic. I think it's important for people to understand, kind of what kind of organization that we're building here, right? And I love the fact that you guys love coming to work. I love the fact that you guys love helping, customers and the challenges and whatnot. But I think it's important for people to understand that that's just not happening because of, magic in the air, right? It's purpose built. It's intentional. It takes a lot of work, right? And what I love about you guys is the fact that you love putting in the work, right? All those guys out there are wanting to be better, and, it's just not the lunches and all this stuff. It's everything, right? And that's been powerful. So anything else? Books, culture, food for thought?
No, I mean, what you said right there, I was going to kind of mention there's jobs and then there's, I don't know, things you do,
Yeah.
And there's always you want to wake up to make sure you make it to work on time because you got to get paid, you got to pay bills. But me and Justin and Victor, I live with 2 of the other guys that work here, if you guys didn't know that. That kind of speaks to something as well. And it's been great. We want to go to work because we want to go do stuff. It's the only other way to put it is you have a project pending and you want to wake up and get to work as quick as you can because you want to work on it. You want to help this person. It doesn't feel like coming to work. It feels like I'm coming to, work on something with a group of guys I like being around.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel like a job. It's really odd. But I think that's why we're where we're at is you hit it on the head. We love coming to work and being who we get to be because that's who we are in our lives.
Yeah, I've always talked about like Will, right, coming from IBM/Lenovo and that shitstorm. Yep. Even Kyle, coming from his employer, right? They're like deer out of headlights. They're like, what the hell's going on? I mean, when we used to buy lunches, right? Will's like, who do I pay? Yeah. Right? I'm like, dude, this is just what we do here, right? Yeah. And getting me him, but I mean, can you imagine not having Will on the team?
No, not especially not right now.
Yeah, because he's up to his ass and all this other stuff, and we gave him a lot of responsibility, and he's been doing fantastic at that. But yeah, it's unbelievable work, right? And I think for me, the conversations that I have with you guys are the same conversations I have with my friends and the same conversations I have with my boys, right? And that's just who I am, right? I have a very clear, mission for what my life is, right? And is to help people be the best version of themselves. I see things in you that you don't see in yourself. Yeah. And that's why you're in the position that you're in. Yeah. Right? Now, does it take time? Does it take hard work? Yeah. Does it take, you and I having, uncomfortable conversations, which we've had? Yeah. Yeah. Right? But it's for the betterment of you.
Yep.
Right? Mm-hmm. And yeah, listen, I appreciate you, all the stuff that you've done. We would definitely not be here, right? I mean, employee number 2, that's right. 002, right here, low number. Yeah, I just remember you walking in, and I'm like, am I going to hire this guy? I mean, we're trying to build this company. Now, mind you, we had the voice side and we had the internet side, but we didn't have the help desk and the managed IT stuff. And I was like, I just felt really comfortable, especially after we got, like you said, got done with walking with Doug, who's a tough cat to read. Yeah. And you navigating that. Yeah, you're fantastic. We would not be here having this conversation if it wasn't for you and your leadership and you wanting to be the best version of yourself. Because we all know it starts with you. I can't change you.
Yep.
Right? I can't change you. Right? We give you a lot of choices. Okay, lastly, let's talk about the 4 pillars.
Okay.
Right? Pillar number 1.
Network security.
Okay. And the 3 sub-pillars.
It's physical, logical, and practical.
Yep. Pillar number 2.
It's business productivity that's focused, reliable, urgent.
Yep. And 3?
That is customer service, empathy, efficient, and effective.
Yep. And the last one, which is my favorite, people.
It's my favorite too. It's choice, empower, celebrate.
Yeah. And we're not going to get into all those, but there's a lot of meaning behind all those, right? And we just went through a redesign, right? Which Parrish sent behind the camera right there, helped us put together, and they look fantastic.
Oh, they're done? Ooh, I want to see.
Well, they're not done because we're still waiting once again from the vendor to get back to us to kind of get them done, but they will be done. That's going to happen, right? You guys have seen the prototypes.
Yeah, they look good. I'm excited.
Yeah, they look real good too. So, okay. Shez, I appreciate you. The books are fantastic. For all of you guys out there, listen, if you got to figure out one place to kind of start, I would always start with customer service, right? I mean, the most expensive part of a business is customer acquisition, right? There's so much noise, so much marketing. Everyone, hyperbole. Everyone can say everything, write everything. If you can't retain your customers, you got a problem, right? Customer acquisition is so expensive, but what's even more expensive is churn, right? If you and I think that's one of the things that Horst talks about a lot about is customer retention, right? If they want to be a customer, let's make them a customer for life, right? And
loyal.
Loyal, right? We treat them right. So, fantastic. Thank you. Appreciate the conversation.
Yeah, me too. It was
cool.
fun.
Yep.